Hey folks, how you guys doing? Hope you're all having a great day today. I know a lot of people like these SketchUp videos and I haven't done one in a while, so here we go. This is going to be a relatively simple project, but the goal with this project was to have a simplified design so that the wood grain itself would be the focal point rather than, features in the design. So this is going to be a sofa table, and I'll start from the origin, R for rectangle, drawing on the green-red plane. And the dimensions in the lower right say that the first one is the longer of the two. So let's go with 59, 14, enter for my dimensions. That's my length and my width for the space that I have available. P4 push pull, and I want this table to have a height of 30 inches, enter. So this is basically the boundary box. I'm going to have all of my table inside this box. This just establishes my overall dimensions. Now there is some symmetry with this, so L4 line, I'm going to draw a diagonal on the top, and what that does is it basically just gives me this midpoint that I can easily reference off of later. So now spacebar, click and delete will delete all of these faces, just the faces, not the lines, not the edges. That way I have a wireframe boundary box. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter, and that way it's not easily modifiable, or it's not easily messed up. So the top panel is going to be two boards. It's 14 inches wide. I know that's going to be two boards, so that makes it really easy. R for rectangle from here to this midpoint. P4 push pull, go down 0.75 inches, enter, spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. M for move, control brings up copy. There's two boards to make up this tabletop. Now I need to establish the leg height, which is from the floor, R for rectangle from here, and we're going to go, let's see, I have some 8/4 stock on hand, so I think I should be able to get 1 3/4 square material. So 1.75, 1.75, enter, P4 push pull, and we'll pull this to the bottom of the top. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Now these top boards are done. They're just going to be in the way, so I'm going to press H for hide, click H for hide. I don't know if that is a standard keyboard shortcut or if it's one of the custom ones that I made, but you can go to Window, Preferences, and Shortcuts, and then make your own. So I use H for hide. This leg is going to be offset, so M for move, we're going to go in 1 inch from the sides and in this way 0.5 inch from the front and back. M for move, control brings up copy, and I'm going to copy one of these right to the back. You can see I'm constraining to the green axis. If the green axis is displayed, I can hold shift to really constrain to it, and you can see it highlighting. I'm going to drop it off on this back and then once again move it forward 0.5 inches for that offset overhang. Now I drug it along the green axis, so let's right click and say flip along the components green, and what that does is if I double click to edit the part, now if I edit the inside face of that other component is edited, and same in this direction. That way any changes are updated because these are copies of components. Now we have some symmetry here, so I can select this, hold shift, select that, Q for rotate with the blue plane selected on this midpoint. We're going to click there to start it, click here for the start of the rotation. We're going to move these all the way to the other side, but before I click I want to press Control to bring up copy because I do want to add two more, not move the originals. I'll click and drop them, and once again, because everything is a copy of a component, these will all update if I go to mess around with them. So now let's draw the rails. R for rectangle from here, and let's see, the dimensions say that the first one is the smaller of the two dimensions, so 0.75, 3.75. I want a 4-inch rail, but I also want 1/4 of an inch molding. So 3.75, enter. P4 push pull. Let's pull this over to here. There's some joinery that I have to do, but I'm just going to go ahead and spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Make it a component. M for move. We want to inset this by 0.25 inches, enter. And never draw what you can copy. Actually, that's just a rectangle. That's super easy. I'll go ahead and draw another rectangle on this face. And let's just say that's 3.75, 0.75, enter. P4 push pull, and we'll pull this all the way over to this edge in the component. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. M for move, let's make this offset, pushing this in by 0.25, enter. And there we go. I can rotate these really quick, but let's add the molding too. It's very simple. This is just a very basic, simple molding that just gives it a definition line. R for rectangle from here, and we're going to go into this direction. The first one is my width. The second dimension is my thickness. So I only want to modify the second by pressing Control 0.25, enter, because it was already constrained to this edge. P4 push pull, and I'm going to pull this all the way over here to this edge. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Once again, we'll do the same thing here. R for rectangle from here to here. And I am constrained to this edge, which is the second dimension of 1 in the bottom right corner. And we'll say 0.25, comma, to only modify the first dimension. Enter. P for push pull, we'll pull this out all the way to this edge. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Now I have the 4 pieces to rotate. So let's grab both of these using a crossing, both of those with a crossing, Q for rotate. Again, on this midpoint, we're going to click once, start it over here, rotate it all the way around, press Control to copy these, and click once again. I no longer need this because everything is basically built. It's a very simple table, so I'll go ahead and delete my boundary box. And you know what? I still need, I'm going to grab one of these, and yeah, I'll just grab one of those. M for move, Control brings up copy. I will grab it at this midpoint. General rule of thumb is never draw what you can copy, and I'll drop it right there. Now, I don't want to modify these 2 originals, so I'll right click and say make unique. Spacebar, double click to edit the part, use a window to select that face. P4 push pull, and I'll pull that back over to here. It's just a little bracing piece, and honestly, this is a very simple structural member. No need for anything fancy. Pocket hole screws will be just fine. This is all going to be hidden anyway. A couple things that I want to do. The thing with this table is, like I said, I wanted to keep it very simple because I've got some ambrosia maple out in the shop that is very figured, and I think it would just look gorgeous with really figured rails. And I don't want to cut up those rails to add drawers, but I still want to, make it interesting by adding storage. So what we're going to do is just make a little hidden tray storage in here. The easiest way to do that is R for rectangle from here, and in this direction we'll do 0.5, 0.5, enter. A little 1/2 inch square stock, and we'll pull this out 10 inches, enter. This little hidden storage doesn't need to be a whole briefcase, just a little tray is fine. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. M for move, Control brings up copy, and we'll copy from this corner holding shift to constrain to the green axis and drop it off on that face. So now these are kind of like the runners. We'll add a tray from below. It'll sit on top of these and slide in. So the easiest way to figure out the dimensions is to just draw it on top. R for rectangle from over there to over here. P4 push pull. Let's go up 0.25 inches. Enter. 1/4 inch plywood bottom. That's fine. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Now, as you can see, I'm making this tray or door, whatever you want to call it, to the exact size of the opening. Obviously, you want to reduce it by 1/8 of an inch or so you can have some movement, or so you don't bind trying to get it in there. Now, let's go ahead and R for rectangle from here to, actually let's go this direction. The first dimension says it is 10, so the second one is my thickness, so we'll modify the second only by pressing comma, 0.5, enter, P4 push pull, and let's go up 2.5, enter. I think let's go up 2.25. Let's change that. I'm going to have some tabletop hold down clips to attach to the top, and that looks like there's enough to not interfere and still allow it to slide easily. Spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. M for move, Control brings up copy. We'll copy one over to here. This is a very basic tray. There's no need for any complicated joinery. It's going to be hidden, and it's not going to be pulled out and shown off. So just regular butt joints, brad nails, something like that, maybe some screws. That's all that's needed here. Q for rotate. Never draw what you can copy once again. And we will rotate this one over to, oh wow, it's the exact length already. Huh. All right, well, we'll just drop it off right there, and we got lucky because all 4 of these are the same. I couldn't have done that again if I tried. That caught me off guard. Anyway, let's copy this one over to here. And also, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at the bottom of this tray, and I want to have like a little handle or something right here. That way, as I reach under the table, I can use this handle to slide it to the right. So we're just going to grab one of these, Q for rotate, holding shift to constrain to this face, and control brings up copy. We'll rotate this 90 degrees, enter. And again, it's the same length. That's odd. Let's right click and say make unique, and just for the sake of, we'll go in, I guess 3 inches, just for the sake of making this a small handle, 3 inches. There we go. Now, and as far as this diagram or this model goes, I want to select this, hold shift to select the bottom, the front, the right, the left, and holding shift again to select that over there. G for component, enter. Now, all of this tray is a single component, and I can click on it and in the model demonstrate how it'll move. Now, my thought is somehow to make this not wiggle, and the way I want to do that, if the table is moved, I'm probably going to add a magnet somewhere over here, and then an adjacent magnet somewhere over here. That way, the tray can be slid in from below, and click the magnets will hold it in place. And if by chance the table gets wiggled or something in the room, then this tray won't fall out. So, yeah. That makes sense. We do want to add, let's go ahead and add the tapers and joinery. First, with the legs, we'll add the taper. I can see this back leg easier, so let's double click to edit that. Let's select this bottom edge and hold shift to select that edge as well. M for move, control brings up copy. We're going to grab it at this corner. We're going to go straight up. I'll actually press up on the directional pad to constrain to the blue axis, and I'll drop it off right at the bottom of this inlay here, or of this trim piece. Yeah, we'll try that. And we'll select that, M for move, and let's move this in 0.5 inches, enter. Let's select that, M for move this in 0.5 inches, enter. So now on just the interior 2 faces of all of these pieces, we have a slight taper. It's just going to make the table feel lighter, more airy. But yeah. So I've been planning this table. It's been in my head for a while now. And my initial thought was to continue this trim piece all the way through the leg and wrap it around. Maybe have it stick out proud of the leg by a 1/4 of an inch, so it kind of comes in, comes out, wraps around, then goes back in. But the more I think about it, the wood that I'm using for these legs is going to be ambrosia maple as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Let's just keep it with this singular piece of trim down here at the bottom. And let's go with joinery. All right. Let's edit this component. Now I've got 2 keyboard shortcuts that I think are custom, and one of them is as I'm editing a component, I can press Y to remove the rest of the model, so I only look at my component. It's kind of handy. In this case, what I want to do is draw the tenon, because it's going to be kind of like a mortise and tenon, kind of like a tongue and groove, a dado, whatever you want to call it, kind of a combination between them. I'm trying something new with this. F for offset. From here, we're going to go in 1/16 of an inch, 0.125. No, I'm sorry, that's 1/8 of an inch. Yes, 1/8 of an inch, that's right. And typically with mortise and tenon joinery, it's the rule of thirds. Whatever your thickness is, your tenon is 1/3 of that, and centered. But in this case, the mortise material or the groove material is wide enough that I can get away with a much larger tenon. So just a small shoulder here. And I want the shoulder on 3 sides, the left, right, and bottom, not the top. So I'm going to grab this M for move. Let's just grab it here, press up to constrain to blue, and drop it off at the top. Now I can select this, P4 push pull. Let's go this way. I think I figured it out to be 5/8 of an inch. Enter. So we should have a 1/2 inch, which we do. 1/2 inch tenon, 5/8 of an inch long. I'm going to grab this face and M for move, control brings up copy. I'm going to hold shift to constrain to the green axis. I'm going to drop it off there at the back. Now I just dropped it off and it's still selected, so I can press P4 push pull without looking at it and just push it on the back. 5 divided by 8. Enter, 5/8 of an inch. Space bar, and we can now get out of that component. As you can see, the tenon is now sticking into the leg, which makes it really easy to modify the leg and just trace the tenon. We're going to do it a little differently though, so I'm going to edit my leg. Again, it hit everything because that's how I had it set up last time, so let's press Y to bring it back. And another keyboard shortcut I have is I. I call it I for invisible, but it's actually just activates the X-ray. So in my case, I, and now I can see this tenon inside the leg, which makes it really easy. Again, we're modifying the leg to R for rectangle, and on this front face, just trace the tenon. P4 push pull, and we'll push this back, so it's like cutting a mortise, to the end of it, and then we're going to extend it 1/16 of an inch more. The 1/16 of an inch is to allow for room for glue, because if you don't have this and you just have a bunch of glue on the sides of the tenon as well as the side walls of the mortise, you try to put it together, it's going to push some of the glue into the back, and if the glue has nowhere to go, then the joint won't properly seat, which means you will have gaps right here on your shoulders. So we're going to add 1/16 of an inch. Click to get out. I'm still in invisible. I'll turn that off so it doesn't get too confusing. And it updated over here. So now we got to repeat the tenon command, or the tenon process on these long rails. So let's double click, Y to hide, F for offset. Let's go in 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. Space bar, grab this piece up here. M for move, click right there. Press up to bring it to the top right there. P4 push pull will pull this out 5/8 of an inch. Space bar, click this face. M for move, control brings up copy from here all the way on the red axis this time, all the way to the back. It is still selected. P4 push pull. Let's push it to the back side. 5 divided by 8. Enter. Space bar and click to get out. So now we can do the exact same thing with the leg on this long rail tenon. So let's double click the edit the leg again. Press Y to bring everything back. I for invisible. Also, let me back up. Instead of pressing I, because I know that's a custom keyboard shortcut I set up, you can press K for hidden lines. It's just not quite as obvious. It's there, but it's not quite as obvious. So K toggles your hidden lines, and I know that is a standard keyboard shortcut. So I for invisible, or I'm sorry, X-ray, and R for rectangle. And we're just going to trace this once again. P4 push pull. Let's push it to the back side of the tenon, and then we will push it another 1 divided by 1/6. Enter, 1/16 of an inch. And that should have done all of them. Turn invisible off. That should be everything. So my thinking with this this particular style of, I guess, mortise and tenon, tongue and groove, whatever you want to call this, is I wanted to try to make the entire joint as much as possible with the dado stack. So I will come down from the top with the dado stack, and what that's going to do, I'll select this and hide it. What that's going to do is create kind of a rounded radius down here from the blade, so I'll figure out where I have to stop it, and then I'll have to chisel the rest out, which should be extremely easy because you're just chiseling a little corner. The sidewalls, the depth, all that should be established. It's just trimming a tiny bit. But that way I can do the mortise with the dado stack, and of course the tongue part with the dado stack, how I always do it anyway. And that's it. So U for unhide, that's another custom keyboard shortcut. Very simple, very basic utilitarian table that is going to be, the focal point is going to be the wood grain and not the design. Now, speaking of wood grain, B for bucket or your materials, whichever you prefer. I normally use colors, which I will show you colors, but it's pretty cool. I found this wood species palette, and I'll have a link where you can find these as well. And it's really cool to kind of get a better idea without going for a full-blown render of seeing what the wood will kind of look like together. So I'm using ambrosia maple for the entire base minus the trim. The trim pieces and the top are going to be mahogany. It's the same species combination as the coffee table I recently built. So let's click Maple Soft. I think that's the closest one I found to what kind of looks like ambrosia maple. And we'll drop this all the way around there. That's probably going to be ambrosia maple as well. And then mahogany is somewhere in here. We'll do African mahogany. There. It's in the wrong direction. We can change that. But this is the kind of the look that I'm going for. I'm not even going to worry about this right here because all of this is just going to be scrap wood in the shop. I have no idea what I'm going to make that out of. That's just going to be scrap wood. But as you can clearly see, the wood grain is in the wrong direction. So it's kind of finicky, but what you have to do is just change the axis and it'll change the direction of the wood grain. And it always takes me like 6 tries to figure this out. So I right clicked on it, hit changed axis, and let's go ahead and just, I guess, click around. That didn't work. Right click, change axis. Like I said, it takes me a couple times to figure this out. There we go. So it changes the axis so that the appearance here, this material, goes in the correct direction. Now you can do that for every single piece. Obviously these rails have the grain in the wrong direction. I'm not going to do that. Just wanted to show you how you can do that. So that's going to be the basic table. Like I said, not much to it. Hopefully everything will be accented by the figure, and we won't have to rely on the style of the table, which honestly, this is basic shaker style anyway, right? There's not much going on. So what do I do from here? Well, there's 2 different routes that I normally go. Normally, I make a layout diagram to determine what materials I need to purchase. In this case, I need to build the boards that I have in my shop to verify that I can fit it on the material that I have on hand, which shouldn't be a problem. So M4 move, control brings up copy. I'm going to copy the entire assembly over here, and on this one I'm going to change the colors. This is going to be just kind of a normal look. This one is my color coded style that I like to do, which is just basic colors. There's no rhyme or reason for selecting any color other than to just be unique with the placement and make sure everything has a unique color. This is basically the same. No, let's just make it a different color. Let's go with a gray. And like I said, I'm not worried about this tray in here because this is going to be scrap wood, and it can be anything out of the scrap wood pile. Don't really care. So I'm going to make some scenes now, and I use scenes all the time. So this is what I call the overview scene. This is just basically, the first look at the project. So I'll click on new scene and change this to overview. And it didn't save for some reason. Overview, there we go. Now that's set, and I'm going to change my camera to parallel projection because this is going to be a top-down when it's all said and done. I'm going to have to update this one a couple times, but we're going to make a new scene called layout. And I lost my piece of paper I had. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, I had to find my paper with my board sizes already wrote down. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to copy this once more because we need one original reference with the colors to designate where the parts go. And the second one we're just going to lay flat. So these two pieces, M for move, slide them out of the way. And basically all we're trying to do is lay all of these pieces 90 degrees into the same orientation. We're just going to bundle them all together. Once I have one, it's much easier to M for move, control brings up copy. I set one side by side, then I'll press X3, enter. There's all four of my legs, much easier than rotating all of these other legs. So I'll just click and delete those. Grab this once again, and we're going to rotate this 90 degrees, M for move. Let's try and just connect these, no rhyme or reason just yet. Control brings up copy, side by side, and we'll delete that one. And we'll just lay all these out flat. 90 degrees, 90 degrees, M for move, put it in place. Control brings up copy, we'll delete that. And we've got one more piece, 90. Let's see. 90, M for move on the corners over to here. Just trying to lay these out, touching one another. This tray, I'm going to delete it. It's not needed. These little runners are scrap wood. Not really concerned about those. And these pieces of trim are I should be able to get these out of the offcuts to these pieces when I trim this panel to size. So actually, I'm not even going to worry about those. I'm going to delete those. Those are very small trim pieces. This gives me all of my main boards that I need to account for. So now I'll go to camera, standard views, top. So now I have an exact top-down view, and I always like to move these down below the axis for some reason. And I can right-click and say update my layout scene. These are my pieces, and I'm going to move them on top of my boards. I have my board pieces written down real fast, so I'll make those really quick. So T for tape measure, I'm just going to make a vertical line here. R for rectangle, and my first piece of 8/4 is 37.5 by 4. The first dimension is longer of the two, so 37.5, comma 4, enter. The second one is, it was backwards, 47, comma 9.5, enter. And the rest of these are 4/4. So I have, all of these are 10 feet long. So let's go with 10 feet, comma 5.5, enter. R for rectangle, 10 feet, comma 7.5, enter. R for rectangle from here, 10 feet, comma 8.5, enter. So this tells me the exact size of each board that I have in my shop. I'm actually going to once again click and delete these faces and turn all of these into boundary boxes by spacebar, triple click, G for component, enter. Over and over and over. So most of the time I try to figure out what size boards I need. In this case, I'm working with what I have. These are going to be mahogany. I haven't picked those up just yet, so I do have to run and get those. I'm not really concerned with those, the top pieces. These legs, it looks like I can get all 8 of these legs, or I'm sorry, all 4 of these legs on the outside edge of this piece of 8/4, which I think has some rift sawn on each side. That should be convenient. And you know what? I wonder if I can get all of them on this single board down here. That would be cool. I would love to be able to do that. Let's see what we got. I'm not being too precise with lining things up. I'm just trying to figure out a rough location of where these pieces are going to come from, because this is all rough sawn lumber. So again, I just moved those and copied rather than moving this one. I'll delete that. This is all rough sawn lumber. So there's, you know, there's bad spots here, there's good spots there, there's stuff you want to work around. Yeah, so I guess it's a lot less material than what I thought. Okay, there's absolutely no problem. I have plenty of material in the shop to get this done. So from here, I can throw some dimensions on it and, print it out as needed. But this is what my main concern was, to just verify that I had enough materials. I obviously had way more materials than what I thought, and that's all I need. Right click and say update. And now I can flip back and forth on this one SketchUp model or SketchUp file between a somewhat realistic view, a location view, and a layout view. And this animation, switching back and forth, there's a 2-second animation that drives me nuts. I always go to window, is it model info, the very top one, and just turn it off. That drives me nuts. So now I can just click and see what I want to see as soon as I click it. I know where everything is in relation to one another. Whew. That's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you picked up a few things along the way. And yeah, time to go get it built. You guys take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.